Tonight on the Big Footy Boys podcast, we talk about all the latest news and events coming out of Carlton. We talk about all the trade prospects and draft prospects, and we review the team line by line. All this and more coming right up.
And another thing I've been wondering lately. Oh baby, tell me where have you been? Now the stage is set, where's my Juliet, baby? Is it maybe mine summer night's dream? What's my sin? What's my sin? What's my sin? Tell me what's my like a talent scout, always checking out new blood. Oh, I would if you tell me your game. Playing solitaire doesn't get me where you would. And honey, you could play any rules that you name. What's my sin? What's my sin? What's my sin? Tell me, I gotta know. What's my sin? What's my sin? They say, making love you can make it pay. They say, yeah they say, but we know there's a better way. Any
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Big Footy Blues podcast. We're now in the post-season, unfortunately, and with me, as always, and has been all season, the old Dark Navies.
Hey, Wookie. Hi, everybody.
And joining us again is Happy Dude,
Hello.
and the effervescent Mrs. Eddie Betts is back.
Hi, I like that one.
This sounds like a Barocca.
No, it's...
Oh, you just wrecked it.
Yeah. You sound like a Barocca, Mrs. Eddie Betts, apparently.
At least it's not Janice this week. I'll take Barocca, I guess.
Yeah. Barocca's good for a goon hangover, I hear.
So, some fairly big happenings going on in terms of this day in particular. According, if you've been to the Carlton website today, they've posted a number of on this day features.
Oh,
and-
how I remember.
And so, a number of these things took place before you were born, Happy Dude. So,
20 years before I
you
was
know,
born.
some time before. But today, on this day, Carlton won the grand final against Collingwood in 1970.
Oh,
and
you
the
should have been there, Wookie.
and the grand final in 1981, and the one against Hawthorn in 1987. So all that happened on this day. See, I was going to put an accent on for it and do it like all old 50s style. It was going to... On this day, where women stayed in the kitchen and Carlton won the flag for after coming back from 44
I don't
points
like that.
behind.
It was reflective of the times.
On this day, you know, but I can't really do that voice very well, so...
Jolly good show, number 44.
We'd just beaten off the Hun when Carlton came back from 44 points behind. No, so he can't do it very well. But anyway, you get the drift.
Well, I know what you say.
Yeah.
It's like those movie tune news interludes, like they used to do on MASH.
Yes. Bit of trade news going around this week. Dale Thomas has been sighted around the Carlton rooms, apparently, down at Visey. Evidently been offered a 5-year, $1 million deal, if the Herald Sun is to be believed. And rumours today that Alan Didak is being favoured down at Carlton. What do we think about that? What do we think about that?
Sorry, can we just go through that? What did you say, a 5-year, $1 million deal?
That's what I heard.
Are you talking $1 million a year?
No,
I think that's what he's hinting towards.
no. I think
No,
it's a
sir.
5-year, $1 million deal, I believe, according to the Herald Sun anyway.
That's
Like
only...
200,000 a year? That's good. We'll do that.
Yeah.
But how much does he get paid now? Surely it's more than that.
Well, I don't know. Let me see if I can find the article again.
I'd say it'd be a multi-million-dollar deal.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Could be.
Actually, I don't know about the 5 years, but I think they were looking about 600. He wanted a fifth year from Collingwood, and they wanted to offer 4. And instead of the 700,000 we've been touted as going to pay him, it's only about 600,000 per year.
Yeah, he kicked up a bit of a stink about it apparently when it was reported it was going to be 600,000 more or something, or 700,000. So.
Yeah, his manager.
But the same article also says we're resigned to losing Eddie Betts as well.
No,
So-
we're not resigned to it.
Apparently he's gone. And Sam Doherty from Brisbane apparently wants to come to Carlton. We're his first choice. So
Yeah,
Who
that's-
isn't
that's
this a
what
second
Essendon.
choice? What's that about?
Maybe he's just
Well-
pulling their leg.
who
Well, that
knows?
just-
Like,
He,
That just
he grew up
makes
a
him sound
Carlton
like an
supporter,
idiot.
didn't he? Yeah, but he grew up a Carlton supporter, didn't he? Maybe he's going all the Essendon fans. Oh, yeah, getting some young talent this year because you don't have your picks. Oh, wait, no, you're not.
maybe he's thinking he's guaranteed to get a game because they're going to be down a few players. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah, being a Carlton supporter, I like that. He'll have some passion for the jumper. You look at his position and go, oh, yeah, another rebounding halfback, just what we need. But in my opinion, if he can, we can talk about this a little bit later, but he can take the role of some others who are more flexible and can go into other positions on the ground. So it could still be a good get. And what was he, a number 11 or number 12 pick in 2011?
Doherty was number 12.
There you go. So it's he's obviously got something about him.
So, but what do we think about the whole Didac Thomas dimension coming to Carlton?
Didac can go away.
You're
I
the
don't
po-
have very nice things to say about
You're the
it.
positive
I'm
one
trying
amongst
really
us here,
hard
Mr.
not
Eddie
to
Betts.
swear excessively.
I really enjoyed it in the 2011 grand final when he got cleaned up by... I'm trying to remember who cleaned up. Saints player ran through him and then he wasn't cited again for the rest of the day.
Let's
It was
look
great.
at. Let's ignore the fact that he's from Collingwood and Carlton supporters think he's a bit of a scumbag. Let's ignore that. Was he going to be 31 before the start of next season?
Yep.
He hasn't played any decent football for about 2 years. It does smack a little bit of Dennis Pagan, Mick Martin, despite the fact that Mick Martin was about 45 when he came over. Look, I mean, could he play? I mean, he obviously hasn't been getting along with Buckley. Could he play good football again? Maybe.
Well-
If he's over any sort of niggles he's had and whatnot, and he's getting his head in a good space, he might be able to play decent football. But he's still going to be that sort of small forward who occasionally gets a run in the midfield, and we have those. Even with Bats leaving, we still have those.
Yeah.
So whose place is he taking, and why do we need another one when list spots are at a premium?
Look, I don't know. I don't think we need him. I've been saying that all along.
Yeah.
I don't see what he could possibly add to our side.
He kicked a good goal this year.
Oh, good on him. Heaps of people kick one goal.
When was the last time you kicked a goal, Mrs. Eddie Betts?
I do kicking practice all the time, and I kick really good goals.
Well, at least you'd think that he'd be getting rid of that black and white mouthguard that he wears.
No. God, no.
Or is that a
I
missing
just-
tooth?
He can't even grow a mustache.
Am I the only person worried that Malthouse is setting up like a pagan-style dynasty here of former players from his former club?
Yeah,
I want
it's like a
to. I want to
Collingwood
go through the
graveyard.
trade period before
I honestly think
start
we're
to
gonna
worry
end
about a Dennis Pagan type.
At the rate
You're
we're
right.
going, I think we're going to end up with Jolly as well.
Well, so
Seriously?
It's going to be Jolly, Didac, and Thomas, and whatever other retreads we pull from Collingwood, and I don't like it.
What
Let's
about
get Russell
Shaw?
back then.
Why not? We bought David Teague from North Melbourne.
Digby Morrell.
Yeah, and Eddie
Big
can
Morrell.
come and be president,
Mick
and
Martin.
then we might as well just change our jumper. This is a freaking joke.
Well, maybe we should just change our jumper. We can become the Collingwood Blues.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, I'm gonna be sick.
We are the Collingwood
Shut
Blues.
the-
We are the
Look,
Collingwood
I
Blues.
know Mick definitely listens to this podcast.
He's one of the 300 people that listen to it, apparently.
Yeah. Mick, address our list deficiencies. Don't add your mates just for the sake of it.
All right, I think we've dwelt on that enough. Any other news that's caught your eye this week, ODN? Mrs. Eddie Betts? Happy dude?
Not really.
No, it's all trade talk and all speculation
rumours
now.
and
Yeah, I can't see anything on the forums that's jumping out at me that we haven't already discussed.
I mean, there are other trade possibilities if you want to discuss those.
Well, what do you...
how about Brent Staker?
I'm not
I'd
too
take it.
against that for like a couple of years. I don't mind him. He's had a good year this year from what I've seen.
Yeah.
I would take Staker.
Yeah.
I think I would too, and looking at the fact that if Doherty wants to come and Staker wants to come, we could probably package something together there. Maybe one of our ruckmen and Laidler or a second round pick, or I think they'll want a little bit for Doherty, but I don't want to give up pick 12, and there's our first pick 12 at the moment, and he was a pick 12, but I would rather throw in, say, a combination of Hampson, Laidler, and our second round pick, and to get Doherty and Staker across. Because the Staker's, where Staker's going to come in handy is he can go forward or back. So you get a couple of years, maybe allowing Henderson to settle up forward, or Staker going up forward and Henderson settling down back. Just a little bit of stability, because we're very light on for, I think, A-grade key position players.
I see Space Cows put an interesting team up, which basically puts half the Collingwood side in the Carlton side.
Yuck.
And that just... In fact, I think it's more than half the Collingwood side.
Well,
Yeah.
go support Collingwood then.
He reckons it will win back-to-back
He's
flags,
probably
so-
having a bit of a laugh.
Yeah, look, it's common knowledge that cows can't handle the lack of atmosphere and space, and this is why they go a bit crazy. So it's Space Cow.
Yeah.
Stick with this.
I'll try and keep up. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, I think it's time we moved into our much foreshadowed list review. And of course, we're not going to go through each individual player. That would be time consuming. And Chief wants us to keep it to within, half an hour.
What? He's still saying that, is he?
I don't know. I think Chief just shakes his head at our podcast now, especially the main board one. Well, we did an hour and 20 last night, but
I think he just shakes his fist and screams at the sky.
he's old man.
How
Chief.
does our length compared to other boards' podcasts go?
I
then?
don't listen to other boards' podcasts.
Yeah,
Do other people have podcasts?
I couldn't care less.
I know Collingwood apparently do because we spoke to some of their people, if you could call them that, and
Ooh.
and
Wow,
Sydney
he's
do
itchy.
apparently.
Anyway, so we're gonna do our list review. I hope ODN and Happy Dude and Mrs. Eddie Betts are suitably prepared
Give me a second.
to
Oh, yeah,
to
sure.
discuss
Just let me prepare right now.
to discuss our people.
www.carltonfc.com.
Oh, I'm going straight to the source where all information comes from. Big footy. I'm a real reporter.
So, what we're going to do is we're going to go line by line through the Carlton, through the starting 18 perhaps, and just really work out where our deficiencies probably were, who performed where we expect them to, and who didn't really perform. But we're not going to really go through individual players per se unless it comes up in the course of conversation. So I guess we'll start where most lineups start, with the back line. And how did our backmen perform this year? And perhaps Mrs. Eddie Betts could give us a start.
Oh, I hate starting. I think it was good. I think moving Henderson made a bit of a hole, but they did pretty well considering. It was a massive shame that White got injured because I think it might have turned out differently. Jamo did look a little bit lost there for a while when he found himself surrounded by newbies. Tui, I think, was the standout for me when he was playing there. He has improved out of sight, and if Blue Girl didn't love him so much, I might have become Mrs. Zach Tui next year. I don't know how to rate them because I just love them all.
Fair enough. Okay.
So it's hard for me to say, oh, they were a C or something like that, but I think they stood up. I think Jamo is amazing, and he doesn't get enough credit for what he does.
Well, just from the outset, and I'll talk in general terms here, but I think we robbed our defence a little bit by putting Henderson forward. But on the other hand, Zach Tui, Cade Simpson, they all had very good years in defence. Andrew Walker had a good year in defence, but again, I think that robbed our forward line a little bit of a potential weapon. Jamison had a very reasonable year, very good year on some players, and occasionally dropped off a little bit, but not by much. I think backline in Barwon, definite pass mark for me, but perhaps ODN, you've got some specific observations.
Yeah, look, our defence statistically, as far as points conceded, we were no better. We were no better than last year, despite playing a supposedly more defensive game plan and having Jamison and Henderson stand up the whole year, unlike last year. So, and then seeing that Tui had his best season, Walker's had probably his best season. Simpson went back and was, especially the second half of the season, was outstanding coming off halfback flank. So, with all that happening and still statistically letting in as many points as we did last year, it's a bit bewildering. I think we either need to have Henderson stay down back and have some key forwards come in very, very quickly, or we send Henderson up forward, and I think we need a couple of key defenders, not just defenders, but actually ones that are tall enough, not third talls. Whether there be one experienced one coming into the side over the trade period, or picking one somewhere that just comes out of the blue, and another one developing. There needs to be more, because while Watson has some attributes, there's still a lot of question marks over his mobility. And while some people are very, very keen on where he's headed, I've seen a lot of players just not come on with their development. So I'm not prepared to lock Watson in yet as a player that is going to make it and going to hold down that key post. So. You start looking. I've got about 10 defenders on my list here. Bear in mind that I've taken Laidler out because he's even though he's listed, he's looking elsewhere. 10 defenders. Only two of those, three of those I'd consider genuine key position players, and there's a couple of third talls there. The likes of McGuinness and White and Bootsma should never be used in a key post. Maybe for little periods of a match, but never as considered as a starting key position player. So I think we're right for small and medium defenders, and there's just a gaping hole as far as key position players. Until we can decide what we're going to do with Henderson. And I think we're just talking about Staker. If Staker comes in, I see him and Henderson being the Bradshaw-Lynch combination that can switch between centre-half forward and centre-half back at will to change the course of a match, change the matchups.
All right, what about you, Happy Dude? Happy Dude?
Yeah, sorry. Just had the missus come in. I think the back line was our best line of... I've lost my place now. I thought our back line was our best attribute this season. They seem to be a bit more settled throughout the year as a whole. There were, of course, weeks where, obviously, when we put Henderson first forward, Jamo seemed a little bit lost at times. I don't really remember a key forward getting the better of us and totally dominating a game this year against us. I think it was more midfielders, because our midfield was quite poor this year, especially defensively, and we had a lot of the midfielders pushing up the ground and kicking a few goals, and I think a lot of the score against us came through poor midfield defence rather than poor backline. As far as improving on the backline, it all depends on where Henderson plays next year. If he goes forward, then we need a new key position player. If he ends up coming back, then we can settle the back line, and we just need someone to learn to really sit on and keep quiet, those small forwards that always seem to get the better of us, all the Stephen Milne type players and just the small forwards like that can just duck forward and kick a few goals on us. They always seem to be the weakness for us. Overall, I think the defence was pretty good.
Yeah, Lindsay Thomas would be another example of a player that.
Yeah, I was trying to remember who else. Lindsay Thomas always towels us up big time. Mrs. Eddie Betts was saying that she couldn't think to give our boys a C or anything like that, and I just want to go on record by saying I'm a fan of C's.
You're a fan of C's. Is that something I should get? You're a fan of C's.
Yeah, you probably should, actually. But we're not going to explain it to you.
No,
Shut up, Happy
I don't get it.
Never mind.
You can't do this to me every week and say these jokes that I don't get because I look like an idiot.
No, I wasn't privy to that conversation either, and my mind's going in all sorts of terrible directions. So,
unfortunately, that's where it was going, ODN.
Sorry?
That's where it was going, ODN.
That's where it was going. Okay. All right.
Yeah, that was the gist of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, see, I'm a guy, and I know these things, whereas you're a married guy, and so you've probably forgotten these things.
I'm not married yet.
Hang on. Really?
Look, Mrs. Eddie Betts, I'm with you. I'm just shocked and appalled.
That is disgraceful.
It's not really that funny.
No, it's not, but I thought I could get away with it.
Well, I just love the outrage. It's awesome. Anyway, so moving on to our centre line and our midfielders, and I think they had a reasonable. I think they could have had a better year, and I think the criticism that they ran one way is probably deserved at times. We didn't tackle as much as I thought we did, but at the same time, we weren't as offensive as we should have been either. Murphy topped out at 18 goals for the year. Our mids didn't kick enough goals. I wasn't overly impressed with the midfield this year, guys. How did you see it, Happy Dude?
As I was just mentioning towards the end of my talk about the defence, the midfield is where I feel that we were let down for the most part of the year. At the start, it seemed like for the first few games, they weren't quite getting the game plan and weren't working as a team as well as they could, because I noticed particularly in the Richmond game, it really stood out that first game of the year, where we'd get the ball in a turnover and two players would run to the same spot and then look confused, like they didn't know where they had to go. But then as the season went on, I thought they'd start to clean that bit up and it would all start to click. But then we had things like Murphy get injured and seem to lose his way for a little while there. And he didn't end up having the best year. And I don't know, players just didn't seem to pick it up and be as defensive as they could have. And at some points it even looked like they didn't even want to put in the effort to run both ways and spread when we got the chance to turn over the ball. And the midfield is what really let it down for me this year, and I feel if we had a better midfield, we could have won a few of those closer games, particularly like the Hawthorn and Geelong games where we only lost by just over 2 goals or so. In the end, I reckon if our midfield was a lot better, we probably could have come away with the win there. Even that first Collingwood game, we probably could have got on top of them as well, and then we would have finished higher on the ladder.
All right, what about you, Odeon?
We don't seem to don't seem to have as much smarts in the midfield as I thought we would have. As Happy Dude was alluding to, we have an issue of too many players going to the one contest and players getting out the back of an opponent getting out the back, and then they're on their way. Instead of it's like we don't have trust in each other. So our two midfielders have got to attack the one opposition player and open it up for them. And it seems really, it's almost like watching an Auskick game out there in some games where the opposition would get clearances because we've overcommitted. But then on the same note, we still got we get the same old players that still like to corral a player and not actually go in and tackle one-on-one. So they're letting them get getting their disposal away far too easily. And again, as Happy D's alluded to, they did seem to improve it, and they did have some toward the end of the season. Did have manic attack on the opponent and on the ball, and that's what we've been asking for the whole time. But what I'm most surprised about is, when we got Judd, we had Murphy and we had Gibbs and we had Judd, and McLean started, stepping up, and Carazzo was in form. We thought we were one of the better midfielders out there. We would argue that maybe we should be somewhere in the top three midfielders, and that was our strength. And we just haven't added to it. And now we have probably one of the more shallow midfields. We just don't have enough quality rotating through the midfield. And if you're going to have a midfield set up, your B team midfielders, I guess, the likes of Bell and Robinson and Keisha or Curnow and stuff in the middle too often, you're going to find teams clearing the ball far too easily and getting away on you. And so we talk about the prospects of Dale Thomas coming across. While he's not that inside mid that we feel we need, he does have pretty good disposal, and he is class when he's up and about. And I definitely think, despite the fact that we do have a few classy players, adding another one or two sort of elite midfielders to that mix is probably something that we should be looking at doing. So I'm coming around, as long as he passes his fitness test. I'm coming around to that way of thinking where we can put Judd or Murphy, give him a spell on the bench, and still be holding our own in the midfield. We do need to shake it up a little bit, and we need to be developing all over the place as far as the midfield's concerned. And look, I wouldn't mind seeing if we can. I'm sort of harking back and doubling back here, but if we do recruit the likes of Doherty, who's a good rebounding defender, and put him in the back line and be able to, I would love to see Andrew Walker in the midfield more often. He's actually a pretty decent clearance player. He's actually got strength and he can stand in tackles. He's no Cuda size-wise, but he's very strong and he's very fit. He's one of the fitter players around the club, him and Curnow. So he can go on any line, but I think it's a midfield that needs bolstering, and I'd love to see him, play a season or two through that midfield. We need Yaron to develop a tank, or Menzel. So those guys need to be able to rotate through the midfield more. These are class players, and if you can actually get these sort of players. We were lamenting the fact that Garlett and Betts and Yaron couldn't run through the midfield. They were small forwards, great on a fast break or, rebounding halfbacks as Yaron was. And we couldn't carry those guys on the one side. They were making up 1/3 of our side, but they weren't able to go through the midfield for more than 5-minute spells. If we can develop the tank on Yaron and give Menzel runs in there as well, suddenly we won't need to be recruiting midfielders. We'll actually look pretty solid. And we just have to replace them down back or up forward.
All right, how about you, Mrs. Eddie Betts? How do you see our midfield?
I thought it was pretty disappointing this year. And it really upsets me to say something like that. But I'm with you, Odie, and I've always thought our midfield was our strength. And I used to tell everyone how awesome our midfield was, and that's what wins us games. And this year I just didn't see it. I think not all of them were firing at the same time. They all had patches where they were good and then faded out, like Armfield faded out towards the end of the season. I don't know if he was carrying an injury. And then Simpson, everyone was calling for his head at the start of the season and he came good towards the end. I know he's not really midfield, but they weren't all firing at the same time. I think we massively missed Carazzo. That was a huge blow, not having him. He left a hole. I know Curnow he stepped up and he's probably my most improved player this year, but it's still, I just miss Carazzo myself at least. Having a new game plan, I think, was really confusing for them at the start. They definitely didn't have it together for the first few games, and it wasn't until towards the end of the year that, it started to look like they were in control of it. Even so, I feel like the game plan has morphed throughout the year to play more to their natural instincts than strictly what Mick wanted. But yeah, they started to gel towards the end of the season. I don't know if that's because Gibbs was put back in the midfield in his rightful position, well, where I see his rightful position to be, or what it was, but it definitely took time to get there, but I wasn't very impressed with them.
Well, I just wanted to make mention too that as far as total disposals for the year, Carlton as a team was 16th, with only GWS and Melbourne below us, and most of our possessions are, they're generated in the midfield. So maybe it's reflective of the fact that we're just bombing it long, so we're going longer rather than running the ball. But we are a good team running the ball. So the fact that, and we've seen numerous times, and we saw in that last game against Sydney, we were just carved up as far as the run and spread and the uncontested possessions from Sydney. And, where Richmond were getting leads on us is because they were able to get around it, get on the outside of us and rack up those uncontested possessions. So we always talk contested, and that's really important. But if the other team's able to just run around with no pressure, delivering the balls to them on the flanks and outside you, it's all the contested possessions in the world aren't going to win you the game. So, and the other thing I wanted to mention was our disposal efficiency as a team. And again, a lot of this has got to be reflected through the midfield. Anybody know where we were as far as this disposal efficiency in the AFL? Dead last. We had the worst disposal efficiency in the AFL this year. That's scary, and that's unacceptable for a team that's finished sixth in the end and is looking to be regular finals performance.
That's terrible.
Yep.
That's actually really embarrassing.
Yep, and it should be.
Oh, I mean, obviously a lot of that was taken up by behinds, but
Oh.
Which brings us to our forward line.
No.
And so, look, as I have done, I'll take the lead on this so we can get my opinion of our forwards out of the way, because it's not going to be good, let's face it. I don't rate Casbolt and Rowe as forwards. I don't rate Casbolt as a forward is next to useless 90% of the time. He will kick a goal or two here and there, but most of his marks are taken up the field. His kicking for goal is borderline incompetent. Rowe just can't get into the game enough. The backup guys in Mitchell couldn't get a look into the team for whatever reason. Although I'm led to believe there's been some distractions in his personal life that may have influenced that. Hampson was more or less a failure as a forward. Our ruckman can't contribute as forwards for whatever reason. Even Cruz's influence up forward is somewhat debatable. As I said when we were covering the defensive side of things, I think we robbed our forward line of its biggest attacking weapon when we dropped Walker into defence, and we spent the year paying for that by bringing Henderson forward, which robbed our defensive half. So Garlett ended up being our leading goal scorer with 41 goals for the year. That's fantastic, when Waite kicks 27 goals for the year. And Henderson, who spent all of about 6 games forward, kicks 24. So there's some massive deficiencies up forward, in that Waite remains our sole marking target forward unless Henderson's there, and that's generally when Waite's injured. So, as a whole, we've spent 10 years since Fev left. Well, not 10 years. It's 4 or 5 years since Fev left. And we still haven't been able to get a key forward to cover what we lost when we sent him up to Brisbane. We lack a marking target that is consistent and won't get suspended or injured every other week. And that doesn't rob us of our defensive capabilities at the same time. And instead of having makeshift ruckman, I would actually like to see us draft a key forward before we do anything else, because quite frankly we can get all the ball we want in the middle. If we've got no one to kick it to up forward, we may as well be playing tiddlywinks. ODN.
Yeah, hard to argue with a lot of that. As you said, we've got 4 key forwards in the side. Being Henderson, Waite, Casbolt, and Rowe. Only 2 of them are definite key forwards, and that's Henderson and Waite. I agree with what you're saying about Casbolt and Rowe. I do find Casbolt to be basically have more tools. I just don't think Rowe has the tools, as you said, to get into the game enough to be a genuine key forward. Casbolt does have more. He's a good contested mark. I don't know that he'll ever sort out his kicking. And even though he does seem to get around the ground a little bit more and get back and help out in defence now and again and have to go looking for his kicks, he doesn't get enough of the ball. And I think we can't be putting him into our best 22s when we're looking towards the future. If he's going to stay on for another year or two, it's going to be as a depth player unless something happens out of the box. He's been around a while now. I can't remember how old he is, but he wasn't recruited as an 18-year-old on the rookie list. I think he was a little bit older, and he's probably about 23, 24 now, something like that. He took a while to get going anyway. We have to find other options. Henderson up forward because of that deficiency is a must. We might aim for another year out of Waite, but how many games that's going to be, I don't know. Probably half of them, if we're lucky. Again, we were talking about Staker. He'll come cheap, and so that's a stopgap measure. He's about 29 himself, so we'd only get a couple of seasons to develop somebody else. So we do need to recruit a key forward this year. One that will be ready to go in a year or two. So we're not talking project players. We're not talking, developing players like Anthony Rasso that we did, a few years ago, thinking that he was going to be a decent key forward and picking him at about, sort of the 80s or 90s, wherever we picked him up. We need something that's actually going to be, we're going to have to give up something for. I don't know whether that's Adelaide's Henderson. We always said we wanted 2 Hendersons. That probably wasn't what we were thinking, but we definitely need to plug some gaps, and we need to get a bit more depth, because we're always losing key position players to injury, and we don't have anybody to come in except playing your Rose up forward or Cruiser up forward, and it hasn't worked, and it won't work. We've had a fair enough sample now to know that it's never going to be anything but a stopgap measure. So I don't know what's happening with our kicking for goal. It was a shocking year as far as that goes, and we've lamented it for a while now. When we do kick straight, we've won games, and we saw that in the elimination final against Richmond. But kicking has literally cost us games this year. There's no doubt about it. We would have had a couple more wins up and got into the 8 on our own accord if it wasn't for the shocking kicking. And I don't know what the forward coaches are doing. If the forward coaches can't teach a ruckman how to lead, to at least be able to hold his own when he's resting up forward, I don't know. I mean, we talk about John Barker, and we talk about he's not responsible for their kicking at goal, but he is responsible for their positioning, for their body work, and so forth. Whether he's had an influence on Henderson in that regard, maybe that's a tick for him. I'm not sure. Certainly, Waite was knew how to be a body player long before Barker was around, so he doesn't get credit there. But there's no one else. I mean, we saw Watson go forward for a game this year, and he looked okay. maybe there's some potential there, but it's just all pie in the sky stuff. Like hoping that we're going to plug gaps instead of having genuine players in their genuine positions. So, look, I've said a lot of words basically just to agree with what Wookie said. We've got major issues.
Yep. What about you, Mrs. Eddie Betts? How do you see the forward line?
I don't know what to say that hasn't already been said. It was pretty deplorable for a lot of this year. I don't know what happened to Eddie. He disappointed me. I never thought I'd say that, but that was definitely the worst year he's ever had. I know he was suspended and injured for some of it, but when he was there, he wasn't very good. I guess the only bonus in that was that Garlett was really good when Eddie wasn't in his way. So I don't know if Eddie does go to Adelaide, maybe that will help Garlett next year. I'm not really sure. Henderson's obviously a superstar, but unfortunately we don't have a team full of him, so that sucks. I think I've always thought Waite was really unreliable. When he's on. But when he's doing stupid stuff like headbutting someone in his first game back and getting himself suspended, that doesn't help our cause at all. And they just need to learn how to kick freaking goals. That's what they're paid for. So I don't understand why they can't do it. So I feel most confident when Tui's got the ball and he's going for a goal. He's not even a forward. So I think that says a lot. That's it. I'm mad. I'm angry. That's all I have to say.
I think. I mean, you expect your forwards to be able to kick goals. It's what they're paid for, like you said, and ours just aren't delivering that. Happy dude. How are you seeing the forward line, mate?
Yeah, pretty much as everyone else has said, very disappointed. As I was mentioning when I was talking about the back line, depending on where Henderson ends up next year, where he becomes our centre-half back or centre-half forward, we need to draft a call earlier about how I wouldn't be against Staker coming down for a couple of years because I've liked this year. If Henderson goes back, we bring Staker down to go forward for 2 years. We can look at drafting someone like Jal has posted a list of a few tall forwards that are in this year's draft. And looking at our sort of range, all they put up was expected draft range, height and weight. Just going off those simple things, I think someone like Mitch Harvey at 196 centimetres and 97 kilos would be ready in a year or two to come in and start playing full seasons at full forward. They won't be world beaters obviously right away, but they will definitely be able to hold the position. I always think first pick should go to best available regardless.
Yep.
So our second pick I think would be 24.
29.
29. Well, yeah, these people are predicted to go between 20 and 30 or 20 and 40 for Cameron McCarthy.
Can we
at 89 kilos, so I reckon if we can draft someone of that sort of draft range, because looks like there's a few that should be available. If we can bring in someone like that that's got the size on them already instead of a beanpole, and we can bring down Staker. This is if we send Henderson back, obviously. That will help fix a key forward issue for a little while, but definitely kicking for goal is the biggest thing we need to work on.
Can we afford to keep going for best available at pick 12, which is our first pick? If there's any other forwards that are ranked between that 10 and 20 range, grabbing a few picks early is not going to be that big a deal. We know we picked Lucas, and everybody thought that maybe not everybody, but a lot of people thought we should pick Talia. We do pick players, your Austins and your Hartlets and stuff around that third round or late second round area. Mid-30s, and they haven't worked out for us. Now, whether that's a recruiting problem or whether that's a development problem, I don't know. But I have no confidence picking key position players up outside the top 20 at all. And even like Watson was pick 18, and I think the jury's still out on him. Bootsma, obviously he was around pick 20 or something, pick 22. I would like to get a genuine first round tall.
Yep.
Yeah. I've got very limited knowledge on the draft and who's coming through the draft this year. So just the list I have in front of me is people ranked draft pick 20 and above. I'm not sure if there's anyone in the 10 to 20 range. If there's a decent key forward in the 10 to 20 range, and it comes down to them or a good midfielder, and we're splitting hairs on who might be the best talent, I guess you'd say, at that time. Go with the forward because they feel more of a need, but I'm unsure on what player rankings have there. It looks like there should be a fair few around. I reckon it could be a development issue because, as Wookie pointed out, since Fev's gone, we haven't developed the key forward. Waite was obviously around when Fev was around, and they did a lot of learning much earlier. But since Waite and Fev, we haven't been able to teach a key forward how to play the game.
Yep. No, that's pretty much how I see it. We've temporarily lost Mrs. Eddie Betts, apparently.
Oh.
But we'll move on to talking about our ruck stocks.
Your favourite?
And it is my bugbear, and I've had this bugbear all year, and we all know I have. But
I was going to say Levi Casbolt was your Warnock of the forward line.
He is, but there's... I mean, we all know, and I think we're all in agreement here, that Cruiser is our number one ruck.
Yeah.
I don't think that anyone disputes that at all. Just in terms of his presence on the field, in terms of his overall ability. There's just so much that needs to... As you hear my phone ringing in the background, obviously, but there's so much that goes on that Cruiser does that the other two just don't do. I mean, Warnock is literally capable of standing at the centre or at boundary throw-ins and tapping the ball and then wandering off to do Christ knows what. Hampson is a good ruckman, and I think we would see more of that if he would actually get a shot in the ruck, but he doesn't. They prefer to try and play him forward where he's, somewhat less than successful unless he's having a really good day. I don't know. My views on the ruckman are pretty well known. Perhaps ODN, you've got a more reasoned view.
No, look, I've supported Hansen a little bit earlier in the year, and I do think Warnock is very limited as a ruckman, and I do think that his contributions are overstated as a ruckman. He's tall, he gets a lot of taps, which probably stops the opposition from getting taps. He doesn't necessarily get a lot more taps to advantage compared to the other two ruckmen. And people think maybe it appears that he does, but I think that's a bit of a fallacy. Yes, Carlton entered at some decent form late in the season, and people are just suggesting that by Warnock's sheer presence, that might have occurred. However, Hampson and Warnock are out of the side far too much. They basically have played about 50% of possible games in the time they've been there, and that's just not good enough. I think Cruiser suffers greatly when he's got to go into makeshift positions and go up forward for 80% of the game, or because Warnock will spend he'll play about 80% game time, Warnock, but almost all of that's got to be in the ruck, which means it doesn't leave a lot of options for Cruiser except to ruck up forward, or as a ruck rover around the ground. And Cruiser's best form is in the centre, and that was shown when Warnock was in the side later in the year, and Cruiser was playing up forward and just around the ground. He hardly got any of the ball, and he just didn't look himself at all. So we need a ruckman. Cruiser, there's no doubt in my mind, Cruiser is our number one ruckman. He has deficiencies, but he has more. He has more going for him than Warnock does in the centre of the ground. So then you've got to get a ruckman that can work in with Cruiser's strengths. Now, Hampson would have been that, because I think both can rotate through, playing half in the ruck and half up forward or on the bench. And they can work in with each other a lot better. And I'd like to see Hampson more as a number one ruck. He hasn't had that opportunity, and I think he will be a very good one if he can stay on the field. But then he doesn't stay on the field. So I do agree with people in that, you start to look at when you've got to cut your losses, and that may be the time with Hampson. I think we'll get more if we try to trade Warnock, but I suspect that Hampson's going to be the one to go.
Yeah, suspect you're right.
And that'll be disappointing. That'll be basically because when Hampson was out of the side injured later in the year and Warnock came back in, he actually did better than he had earlier in the year. And I wouldn't say, he wasn't BOG or anything like that, but we did our midfield did tend to lift. So I guess Warnock's in the right place at the right time. Hampson's going to go, and Warnock and Cruiser are still going to try and coexist next year. And I think we're going to have the same problems getting them both to be at their best while on the field at the same time. I just don't see it happening. So in that way, maybe we keep Warnock if Cruiser's going to go down, because he is a decent number one ruck if he can stay there all the time. Other people can cover for his lack of mobility and whatnot, although he did do better in that regard late. I think we need to get another ruckman in. Now, I don't think it should be Jolly, but I would like to see another experienced ruckman as backup, because Rowan Casbolt are not ruckman, and they should never be in the ruck ever again. They just don't. This doesn't work. It's silliness. We're playing D graders against A graders, and we're getting smashed when they're in the ruck every time. Their 9 or 10 hitouts per game is what playing when they're relieving the actual ruckman is just not cutting it. And we definitely need a young ruck, whether it's a project ruck or a rookie ruck or somebody. We need to have a couple of taller guys. That's what the rookie list is for, as far as I'm concerned. The rookie list shouldn't be there. If you've got 38 to 40 players on your senior list, that rookie list should not be having to compensate because half the players on the senior list are not capable of playing senior football. It shouldn't be that way. Yes, you should have a gem come up now and again, but you should be able to put players on the rookie list. Just give them a couple of years, especially developing talls and ruckman, to see like a Sammy Jacobs, to see if they can offer more and give them that time without having to justify their senior list position. So I'd love to see a couple of talls put on that list just to see if we have a diamond in the rough.
All right,
But
how about you, Happy Dude? How are you seeing the ruck?
As mentioned before, I think one of them will get traded. Probably will be Hampson. With the club with rucks, I think you need to have obviously 2 senior listed rucks that can do all right, which seem to have 3 of. One of them they all need to learn how to rest forward a bit better for us, so then when they do go forward, they're not so much as a liability. Then I reckon you need use a rookie spot on a developing ruck that could be a bit of a project. So then if one of your ruck players do go down with an injury, you can always elevate the rookie to take their spot and see if they can step it up to the big time. Devoting 3 senior spots to 3 ruckmen that can't play any other position, I feel hurts the team a little bit. It hurts your depth with mainly midfielders and say forwards or half forwards or whatever. So I think either Warnock or Hampson should probably be traded. Whether we upgrade picks in that trade or try and get a young player down of a different position and then rookie someone, I reckon that's probably the best move going forward with our rucks. Cruiser's my number one pick for first ruck. If I had to keep one of Hampson or Warnock, I'd probably keep Hampson because he can play forward a little bit better than Warnock can, and I'd prefer to have Cruiser in the middle than Warnock.
Alrighty. Well, it seems we've lost Mrs. Eddie Betts. She had a bit of a power blackout, we're told. So, she won't be coming back, I don't think.
No, she needs to get a better house or a better power supply.
Maybe
go buy yourself a utility company and
move out to the Latrobe Valley where the power stations are.
So I guess in terms of what we've got, what do we need? What do we really need to fill those gaps? I mean, we've got trade week coming up, so there's got to be something we actually need.
Biggest thing from trade week I want to see is if we can get in a key forward or defender, depending on which hole we need, and we need more midfielders, more midfield depth, quality kids coming through. Because if we can get midfielders that can sort of rest forward or back, we're sort of killing two birds with one stone there. If you can, have someone rest forward and play the small forward role, then run through the middle with the interchange cap coming in, I reckon that'll be worth their weight in gold.
Yep, Odium.
Okay, look, we've got once we lose a ruckman, and we all accept we will. We accept that Betts is probably gone, and we know that Laidler's gone. That leaves us with 8 senior spots, and we're going to have 2 elevations this year, being Bell and Curnow. I think that's what we're looking at. Yeah, so we're going to there'll be 6 senior list players needed, and we'll have 1 player left on the rookie list. That'll be Keisha. So we've got 5 rookie slots. That's where we're at right now. Once Hansen, Betts, and Laidler go, so there's 11 spots to be filled. If we can fill 3 of them with Staker, Thomas, and Doherty, I think that gives us tall, that gives us class in the midfield, and that gives us another promising young player who, while he's playing, as a rebounding defender at the moment, he's potentially going to allow the likes of Yaron and Walker to stay permanently in other roles.
Can Doherty play in the midfield? I haven't seen much of him.
I haven't seen a lot of him. I just know that he's known at the moment for his as a rebounding defender. So that's his strength. So time will tell. He's only been in the system a couple of years, so he's still a young guy, and I guess his full potential will be realised later. But being taken at pick 12, he's obviously no slouch, and he's actually fairly highly rated. So those are the 3 I want to get into the club. That still leaves us with 3 senior list positions to fill, and we'll do those via the draft, obviously. So that pretty much takes care of our senior list, and then it's just the rookie list. In the draft with the 3 picks, look, I imagine, and I know we're not supposed to be talking about trade too much, but just to sort of understand how we can fill those gaps, I would do something like a Hansen and a Laidler for Doherty and Staker. That's very like for like, but we've probably got to throw in something else, because Laidler was probably going to be, he hasn't played all year, and Hampson's been injured, and I think we're probably going to have to throw in something like our second rounder. So that'll leave us with picks 12, 47, and 65. Pick 12 has to go on a key position player. It has to. There's no doubt about it. Whether that be, if there's no forward there, then it'll have to be the best defender.
Hi.
Hello, welcome back.
Sorry.
And what are your thoughts, Mrs. Eddie Betts?
Yeah, what do you think of what we've been saying?
I think you guys are really clever, and I couldn't possibly add anything to that conversation.
Yeah. Look, I think Thomas strengthens the midfield enough where we don't really need to. I think if we, with those 3 picks, if we can add maybe one midfielder and 2 talls, and maybe get a ruckman onto the rookie list, that's the way I would go.
If we go into the draft with only 3 picks, I reckon 1 midfielder, 2 talls to help fill who we've delisted, and then in the rookie pick up another tall, and then go midfielder type players with the rest of our rookie picks. But if we end up after trade week, obviously we come with more picks to spend. Definitely start getting more midfielders, but 2 talls from the draft and maybe another one in the rookie list, I think, is what we should be looking at.
I think so, and look, and I can sort of see potential for another 1 or 2 delistings in the senior list as well.
Well, that's it. It's only been the first round of delistings.
Yeah, and I hate talking about it. I know a lot of these guys we like, and we're all fans, so it's not.
I don't want to mention names.
Well,
there'd be some players I'm fond of.
I'll mention possibilities as far as delistings. As nice as they are and as useful they are at times, surely Allard and White have got to be close.
Yeah.
You know,
Allard,
I don't know.
I reckon.
I don't know that they're our future. I think. Well, Dygan. I mean, he had
That'll
a
make
great
me
game.
feel guilty if Allard gets delisted now.
You'll feel guilty.
Yeah, it would be your fault, actually, now that you mention it, you big jerk. Maybe you should change your name to Happy Jerk.
Oh,
Yeah.
love it.
Them
Love it.
fighting words.
Yeah, you know, you can't keep.
Who
all
gave
the-
you power?
You know, Mrs. Eddie Betts, you know you can't keep hold of these guys forever. You know, their list size is not going to be increased to 180 anytime soon.
I don't like it.
I know.
I invest so much emotion in these people, and then they just either get taken away from me or they just walk away from me. I don't understand.
If you're not getting regular senior games, and
I know.
you've been on the list for more, 3 seasons or more, you're in trouble. It's as simple. That's the reality of the the list sizes that we have, I don't know. You know, if we're losing players the likes of Eddie Betts, then suddenly it's like it's not so hard to lose other players as well because he was a heart and soul player.
All right.
Yeah,
Very disappointed if we lose Buckley.
same.
That's another one. I mean, I really think he deserves a run in the seniors like the other guys have had.
Yeah.
I think he's got a little bit of X factor against him. And if we lose him, it's because Mick doesn't see something in him that we all do see, and it will be the cruelest cut of all.
I don't see us losing. I don't see us delisting anyone else this year. To be honest, I think the cuts are dumb.
Yeah, well, I mean,
I
I think we need another draft pick in there, and I think we need to lose somebody
Yeah,
to get
I
him.
think we'll trade
I-
for those though.
Yeah, I think we got some steak knives in there for trade week, and then if the steak knives don't go to upgrade a pick
mean-
or something in another trade, we might have to list one or two more, but it won't be many more.
If Bez
Well, that-
goes to Adelaide, who are we going to get from Adelaide?
We're not.
I didn't think they had to give us anybody.
They don't have to, but didn't he nominate a trade? Because
Yeah.
they did the same thing with Monfries and Port Adelaide. Monfries got traded to Port Adelaide.
But why would you give away a player if you don't have to?
Because Betts doesn't want to be taken under free agency.
He wants to be traded.
It seems like he wants to get Carlton some compensation for
Well,
him.
that's nice of him.
He's not leaving in a. He doesn't want to leave under bad terms. If you
Yeah,
like.
he doesn't want to just
wants
walk out on you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, well, he he shouldn't just walk out on me.
But
God.
but which means that they can afford to drop his price a little bit out of that.
yeah,
So
we can't hold him to
basically-
ransom.
It basically means he's not leaving for money. He's leaving for other reasons. He will get decent coin, but Adelaide are able to drop that money and in return give Carlton a reasonable trade. So he's probably going to accept more.
The money they can
Yeah.
pay him in pies or something anyway. Apparently, you know.
Well, yeah, well,
That's how it works.
it's worked before, but
Yeah,
and this is where I see one of Adelaide's talls that's not getting a game potentially bringing in a bit of depth for us, and that might be Henderson.
Yeah, it might be.
Yeah. How about that Tom Lynch? If
They're not going to get him.
Walker comes back for him.
No, I think didn't Walker sign today?
For Adelaide, yeah. Well, yeah. If he comes back in for him, obviously after his knee, and Tom Lynch doesn't have a regular game anymore.
What about Sean McKernan?
Yeah,
I don't know much about Adelaide's list, so
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that he was thinking of coming back at some point.
yeah.
Oh,
Well,
if he can play forward, a key forward role,
that's the other.
Hopefully
That's
it's better
another
than
option,
The
you
last McKernan we recruited.
They're not they're not going to be world beaters, but they're going to fill
Yeah.
a role better than Rowe or Casbolt or Hampson or
I think we need to give Rowe another year because he did have to come back after some pretty extensive treatments.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if you would. I don't know if he'll ever be.
He won't be
No.
a world beater, but I reckon he could show us more than what he has this year.
Well,
he just
look,
seemed, like
let's-
every time he came back for a couple of games, he had a good first couple of games, and then he seemed to get tired and exhausted, and they're classic signs of what he wants to.
Let's not forget that he wasn't he on Sydney's rookie list? at one point. He was on.
A couple of years ago, he was.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, and he's gone to the Sandford, and so he was a recruit. He was a mature age recruit for us.
Oh,
So
he won't be some superstar that he's going to come out and start kicking bags every single week. But I reckon he can give us more than what he has this year for reasons out of his control.
Yeah. Didn't he? I think he got another year, didn't he?
He did. All right, he got one more year, so I reckon he gets next year to see if he can build on that, which I think is very fair. But if he doesn't improve next year, then definitely move him on. But at this stage, I feel he needs next year to show us if he can do more for us. So I think he can give us a little bit more.
All right, guys. I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Unless you've got any final thoughts you want to have.
No, things can only get better.
And so I guess that's it. We're going to take a break for a couple of weeks here. Then we're going to come back during the trade period to talk about probably the day before the national draft or something like that.
Yeah.
To talk about how we're doing, who we're likely to draft, talk about the trades we've done, things like that. But in the meantime, ODN, it's been a pleasure to have you on all year.
Yes, and you certainly have had me on. It's been great.
It's,
That was a joke, guys, and I got it.
Hey!
Woo! High five.
And Happy Dude, it's been a pleasure to have you on in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I've had a good time.
And
Happy Jerk, don't you mean?
yes,
Yeah, that's
Happy
right, you big jerk.
That's who. And Mrs. Eddie Betts, I wish we'd had you on much earlier than we did.
Thank you.
You've been
Me-
a
me
blaze
too.
of sunlight in the gloominess of this podcast.
Absolutely, and Wookie, on behalf of the rest of us, mate, you've done an outstanding job all year. You run everything, you organise everything. You're very professional in the way you do it. You're very passionate, and this thing wouldn't have got off the ground if it were not for your input. So all Carlton supporters on Big Footy should be singing your praises, mate.
Yeah.
And
We have
eternally
proof that it wouldn't
grateful.
have worked without Wookie. There was that one week where me and you tried to do it ODN, and then Wookie happened to come on to our rescue.
I figured out. I figured out how to do it now.
We should also thank Justin Battler and Devoid of Caring, even though neither of them want anything to do with the podcast anymore. But they were integral parts of it early on. And also
Yep.
Blue Girl, 1983, who came on for a couple of weeks, and hopefully she'll be back next season.
And Jeremias for saying that he would come on.
Jeremias, who
That
didn't make
Jerk
it.
stood me
Like-
up.
and also the
And Aphrodite, who stood us up a record 26 weeks in a row.
that's right. She did very well. She was very consistent.
But
And Chief for coming on and not talking about football.
yeah, and Chief and his safari tours and anything but football that he would talk about when he was on.
See,
He can talk about anything, though.
Yeah, see.
Why is
now-
that?
Like,
Mrs.
I'll
Eddie
listen,
Betts?
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
No, I don't.
No.
Your timing coming on was all wrong,
Elucidate
wasn't it?
further.
I know, I'm really upset about that. You better come back.
But we'll be back in a couple of weeks to just before the draft to talk about all things trade and drafting. And in the meantime, have if you're watching the grand final, may Fremantle win.
Go
Go
Freo.
Freo.
And I don't think anyone amongst us here wants Hawthorn to win. And if you do, you can get the hell off my podcast right now.
Yeah,
I did tip them last night though.
Of course.
Yeah,
you do.
tipping's different to wanting them to win.
Why wouldn't you be a normal person just for once, ODN?
Oh no, I thought I gave a fairly sound
First-
analysis.
Hopefully it's the ODN curse on
First
Hawthorn.
of all, you spent 6 weeks cursing the entire team, so we didn't, so we almost didn't make the finals, and then we did. It wasn't it wasn't your fault. It was like the AFL's fault.
Yeah. Look, I just I take back all those nice things I said about you.
Well, your wife will say them anyway later. So
Oh, ouch.
I was waiting for the wife remark.
look, Baker's boy. What I want your opinion.
What?
Come
I
on,
didn't
you guys
catch
are
the end
like
of
a
that.
wolf pack.
This is the last proper podcast, concurrent podcast, and it's degenerating into a farce.
You guys
So-
should sing
so
that
pretty-
wolf pack song.
Pretty much we're we're ending the way we started.
The shambles.
Oh, this
Like
has
complete
been-
nutter fast.
It's been 27 weeks of constant shambles, I think. But look, I will see you all in a couple of weeks' time. But in the meantime, good night, Odeon,
Good night, everybody.
and good luck with your Big Brother podcast, where I'm sure there are all things Big Brothery going on. In fact, let's check Big Brother right now.
Going great.
Yeah, go
guys.
Drew.
Here we go.
And evidently there was some big fuss with Tully going on. But
Well, they were talking about all sex toys and threesomes the other night. So you've missed something.
I missed it. I didn't think
Yeah.
it was on, because was it on later than normal?
The feast.
Yeah, was it on later than normal?
I don't think so.
Oh, I went to bed like, it mustn't be on. And then I wake up the next morning and I look online and there was all these three-way lesbian kisses that I missed out on.
Yeah,
Shut it.
you missed out on.
Yeah.
You would have been part of that.
Everybody loves a good lesbian three-way kiss, true?
No.
Okay, don't worry about it. Just me.
after a rather hairy situation in the diary room, Justin emerges with some finger-licking news for his fellow housemates. Interesting.
KFC. Just
No.
Justin with a Y double N at the end, by the way.
Justin.
Yeah.
It's disgraceful.
What kind of... Big Brother proves he's the host with the most, with a special surprise for new arrivals.
Oh, you thought you were the host with the most.
No, I'm not giving anyone
We had
KFC,
new
I'll tell you
arrivals.
now.
Yeah, I'm an intruder, you guys. That means you have to vote me off. Because the intruders never win.
Justin's plans to destroy Tim seem to be well on track. All this and more coming up on the Big Brother podcast later on tonight, apparently, with ODN and Mrs. ODN and some other guy.
say good night, Wookie.
I don't know who it is. And I don't care, to be honest. Good night, happy dude.
Stay classy, Stan Diogo.
Stan Diego. What the heck? And good night, Mrs. Eddie Reds.
Good night.
Stay off the goon.
Oh, I don't drink that
That
anymore.
stuff will do your eye in.
I've got
never-
my eye on you.
I'm never telling you guys any stories ever again.
Well, this is another one I'd help for.
That'll be
I got that joke too. You guys, I'm 2 out of 3. I'm ending on a high note.
2 out of 3.
more obvious, though. That's the thing. Anyway.
Yeah, but I got it.